Hello, friends. This is John Connor Third of episode 124 of Shadow and Flame of Magic, the podcast. And today we're going to review X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 8. Let's get to it. All right. So, Episode 8, Tolerance is Extinction Part 1, is 34 minutes long. Is back on the previously on. Still no Magneto in the credits. Professor X has been added though, so that's great. Storm's back in the credits as well. We see Magneto on Asteroid M has been added, and the scene where like X-Men's going across the screen, Kurt has been added to that. The episode opens with Cable shooting bottles, and Cable explaining that he got separated from Bishop, so he went into the far future all by himself, and that's pretty sad. And that does explain why they're from two different eras of the future. Scott's wishing Xavier was around because he'd be an example of a father, which is a horrible um, situation. And you do not want to follow Xavier. If anything, Xavier is a good example of what not to do. And I love how we don't waste any time and how like Cable just starts updating about exactly what Bastion's deal is. Oh yeah, they mentioned how Genosha was supposed to be a utopia, which makes me think like, oh, Asteroid M, Utopia, and Genosha, like we're hitting all the famous mutant islands. Polaris shows up in a future image of Cable's story, and not only is future Polaris there, we get Rachel Summers. So we're just ticking boxes of characters we want in the show. So hopefully we'll get Rachel, the Escanti mother in there, or Mother Escanti. As soon as I said it, I was like, that's not how you pronounce it. And maybe one day, if we're all very good, we'll get Kitty Pryde and Lockheed in there. Which they could just legit just make her a ninja and be like, yeah, this is what I do, and I have a cool pet dragon. What up? Or they can go pirate style and be like, yeah, I do this now. I have a pet dragon. What up? And I hope Jean is wrong that Madeline isn't dead. I love just that we get Cable and Scott just talking. Somehow Trish Chilby reveals that Xavier and Lilandra got married, and it's broadcast across all the galaxies. Um, oh yeah, my Disney Plus has ads now, which I don't mind on a cartoon because, ideally this would have ads if it was on network television, but I don't know, it's an hour and 30 minutes, or not an hour, it's a minute and 30 seconds, and which sometimes YouTube will have you do that where if you don't pay attention, it's like, oh yeah, this is an hour long ad. Like, this is ridiculous. So, but I do go like, oh, 15 seconds, I should be able to skip this. And it's like, oh no, I can't skip this. That's irritating. And if they're going to have ads, they should just be having Deadpool ads. Or maybe, I know this is crazy talk, but maybe comics, like ads for comics coming out, like maybe Push from the Ashes and the Indian Krakoa. And then we get back, and Berta's mom's doing a fundraiser for Genosha, which is nice, but she is not a fan of the X-Men. And Jubilee throws out a "you people," which is also not great. Oh yeah, and Jean calls Kurt, which is nice, as they're on first name basis. And he is just watching Rogue, which is nice. And Rogue and Kurt together just makes me think about Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men and how we will talk about that a little bit later. Um, oh yeah, cottage cheese gets brought up, which is gross. And Jean has all of Maddie's memories, so she remembers, uh, being pregnant with Cable. So I guess maybe, and this is what happened to the Goblin Queen after Inferno, where Jean just got all of Maddie's memories. But if they do kill off Madeline, or at least make her disappear for a long time, I guess this is just what we're going to do. But if she has her memories, she should find a way to upload them into Cerebro, so if they ever find a way to, I don't know, create some type of protocol to resurrect people, they can just have Madeline's mind memories there. Kurt sharing his thoughts on his origins and his thoughts on Mystique. He really emphasizes the found family aspect of the X-Men, which he's the perfect poster child for that. We get, whoa, I dropped my phone and now I'm realizing I don't have to hold my phone during this. Oh, and this sounds familiar. I'm just mostly reading all my thoughts from my Twitter account, which you can follow me on Twitter at Jacko SIII. And the same on YouTube. And uploaded, well, I just hinted at it, but I uploaded a free comic book day video that is, I like it. It's a little long, but oh man, did Kelly's Comics spoil us on free comic book day with all the free comics. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Oh yeah, so we get Jean, Scott, and Cable all teaming up. Val Cooper has a hurt arm, and now she's dressed up as Bastion. And then we see Magneto in the distance, who looks nude, and he's very recently shaved. And then Sinister's sharing with Val Cooper, which seems interesting, but he must have a feel for like, oh no, she's shares his agenda, but she's not going to share all Sinister's thoughts. But he's planning on betraying Bastion. Oh yeah, and then we see that Magneto is wearing a pair of briefs. Oh yeah, and we see that Magneto's Holocaust number is 214782, which then I Googled it because I was like, is that the same number from the X-Men movies? But no one would say that. But apparently that was the number he used in X-Men Black Magneto, which is an era of the X-Men I'm not that familiar with. Like I know gold and blue and red, but I didn't. And I've seen the Emma Frost X-Men Black cover by Terry Dotson, but I'm not familiar with the X-Men Black ones. But apparently he used that number, and I guess people they retcon it later in Excalibur Volume 3 too, because I guess the number is too low, and so it needed to be a higher number if he was supposed to be a survivor. That's what I read on the website. Anyways, that questioned the whole thing. And Val was talking to Magneto, who just remained silent. And she talks about how the attack wasn't a surprise attack. Like, no one was surprised by the attack on Genosha. Like, it was like, yeah, of course, mutants were trying to be in harmony, and, humans couldn't allow for that. Oh, yeah, Trish shows up at the X Mansion, and Beast talks to her. And I think the reporter about the Xavier news was someone else because she was blonde and Trish is not. And she brought coffees, which I imagine she didn't bring enough for every single X-Men at the house. And the coffee shop's from Kate, which I can only assume is an exceptional X-Men tie-in with Kate Pride. So maybe that's how they get her. I mean, I'm grasping for all the straws. Oh yeah, and then they go to Bastion's hometown, which looks very much like the Jean Grey hometown in X-Men Dark Phoenix. Oh yeah, we get a reference to the Stark Expo, so we have now Cap, Hulk, and Iron Man all referenced. Oh yeah, and in Bastion's home, it looks like he has a Machine Man toy, which I literally just read those issues of Warlock from 95, maybe 98, and because after the Bastion thing, I went to this Marvel Chronologic website where and I just typed in Bastion, which I did with Gambit when he died in the earlier in the season. So I was like, well, let me see if they ever cross paths, and it took him to this Warlock series for Kitty to come across. Like she joins late after a Spider-Man adventure, and then there's an awkward moment where Spider-Man's like, "Well, we don't need me. I'm gonna leave." They're like, "Yeah, you're good." And then of course they need him later, or just anyone else would have been nice. We see Bastion's mom, and I immediately start thinking this is a trap. And then Jean apparently has touch telepathy, which doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sure there's a fancy term for touch telepathy. And we see that Bastion has a mutant power to communicate with machines, and that Nimrod had took over his father. And then they call him Sebastian, and then I had to Google, like, is Bastion's name really Sebastian? Which now I'm saying it aloud. Bastion's clearly too short for Sebastian. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah, he's called Sebastian Gilbert in the comics. And so he's Master Mode, Nimrod, Bastion. Like, that's the chain. And then we see Bastion is communicating with a bunch of people, including Doctor Doom. So we are just building the universe here. Zemo, President Kelly, who I thought he was still Senator Kelly, but I guess he at one point President Kelly. And then there's a lady with a German accent, perhaps, that I thought was Viper, but we don't see her except for that she's green, but everyone's green. Even Zemo's green. And then Bastion shares his time management philosophy, which reminded me very much of Fallout on Prime. And then the Prime Sentinels, so it's all connected. Let's see here. And then they emphasize Operation Zero Tolerance. And they talk about dial-up chat rooms, which is just a good reminder this is X-Men 97. And then we find out that, like, wherever the percentage of America's races is that percentage of how many people sign up to bash in zero tolerance as and the plans that they're all sleeper sentinels and it just push of a button they will become sentinels and I imagine die inside. And then oh, I wrote Val as a dinosaur. Now I don't remember what that means. Um and then we see back in Bastion's childhood home, 16-year-old Bastion painted a future vision of the Sentinels just ruling everything. And the mom is a trap as she just starts attacking everyone with her wicked tongue. Jubilee gets a new look. It's pretty much all black with her yellow trench coat and a pink undershirt, which people were nice enough to reference that that's her costume she had in X-Men Volume 4, the all-women X-Men team, which I was a huge fan of. Because I was like, it looked awfully familiar. And then turns out Trish is a sleeper agent, and so that's done. Shouts us stars and garters. So that's one less ship we have. And just AI is the worst, and I think we can all recognize that. We did back-to-back Blue Bloods, and they even Blue Bloods had an episode about AI, which made me think like an old man must have written that episode as, I don't know, they treat AI like, what is this newfangled thing? And it's like, oh, you guys. And Logan shows up, Trish blows him away, and get to the Blackbird Ta. Kurt rescues Beast. Murph changed into Juggernaut and starts like, punching like Juggernaut does. Kurt gets knocked out, but right when he gets knocked out, there's a pair of S words drops in front of him. And then we see the X Mansion is just burning away, just like Xavier's dream. Logan shows back up. He's ready for more. And he finally gets the set piece that some people have been very excited about. And Rogue is just sleeping through all of this. And then someone makes a comment like, you and what army? And then, oh, no. It's even better than that. Wolverine says he has 6 reasons for why they should back down. And then Kurt shows up and who's simply amazing and says 9 reasons, as not only does he have 2 swords, he legit has a third sword, one wrapped around his tail, or his tail is wrapped around one of the swords, which is amazing that we finally get like prehensile tail. And they all have wicked tongues. And they're just best friends fighting together. Because friends who slay together. And we get X-Men on the run. We get full Sunspot finally as he catches Jubilee. Um, they're in the Blackbird and Gene buckles Cable in and he's I don't know, every so often he makes a whiny like you're not my mom. And it's like, oh Cable. Scott's a pilot, which I love to see. We reference that this is the third Blackbird, so they are going through these. And Cable doesn't like being bossed around. And then they sacrifice the Blackbird, and then Scott finds the X car, and they jump out of the back of the Blackbird in it, and it's like, is a car like this isn't Fast and the Furious? Which full disclosure, I've seen a clip or like a full scene from Tokyo Drift, but it's not a franchise for me, I don't think. Cable comments on how it's not just an X car, it's a Porsche, so good market placement. We get the father and son blasting as Gene drives the car. We just get an awesome shot of the Summers. We cut back to Berto at the fundraiser, and Berto's outed to everyone. Bastion arrives at the X Mansion. We find out Val has released Magneto, but she didn't run away with him, so that's an odd choice. Val says that Magneto's right, which is awesome. And then Magneto finally, like free, finally breaks his silence, his vow of silence, and says enough. And then he touches base with both poles and just creates a giant Earth-size EMP. And then we get Spider-Man backflipping around. We get Silver Samurai in Japan. And at first I thought he was going to tilt the planet, but instead he creates the EMP. And it's a giant blackout everywhere, which means all the planes in the air crashed. Not just crashed, but crash into things. And then also everyone on life support is just instantly dead. So that's not great. And Logan does point out, like, yeah, Magneto just declared war. And I imagine he did. And Rogue is still sleeping. And Logan has now said Xavier's name 3 times. And then Xavier crashes into the ground, which at first I thought was because he's a poor pilot. But, what they say, any crash you can walk away from. But the EMP probably hit the rocket ship as it was coming down, and that's why he really crashed. And Xavier ends the episode with a "To Meet My X-Men," which is pretty cool. So, and we see images of Beast, Storm, Scott, and Jean, I want to say. And it's just like, oh yeah, Storm still hasn't made it home yet. Wait, like how far away? I guess Texas to Westchester County, so that would be a distance. So she must be casually flying back, maybe taking advantage of the wind currents. But I sort of wish that we went like all hands on deck and the screen just filled up with all established X-Men characters. Like that'd be cool. And we get the most thanks ever with Carl Boulders, Sal Pacino, Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum. Oh yeah, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created the X-Men. Jerry Conway, Marvin Eglin, which him and Carl Boilers are the new thank yous. Pascal Ferry, who wrote the Warlock or drew the Warlock series. Michael Golden, Butch Geis, Michael Higgins, Andy Kubert, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Scott Lobdell, Joe Mad, Bob McLeod, Famion Naiza, Phil Noto, Carlos Pacello, John Romita Jr. and Sr., Werner Roth, Steve Siegel, Mark Silvestri, Louise Simonson, who also wrote The Warlock, Tom Sultan, Roy Thomas, Herb Treatman, and Lynn Wynn, which means my beloved Paul Smith has finally been removed. So I don't know what made him include it, but um, maybe he was being thanked for all the Morlocks, maybe? So what's next? That's right. So X-Men Volume 634 came out, which was Joshua Cassara's last full issue of the Krakoan era. Um, Jerry Duggan was the writer, and this was such a great issue. Farardo Jr. was the colorist, and Cowles was the letterer. They all brought their A games for these final issues. Murdoch's on a real tear, killing as many no-name Orcus jerks as possible just for the funds. Firestar saves Ben Urich. Miss Marvel saves a family. And I love the levity the issue's given. Where like, oh, and Murdoch's killing all these Orcus people by just making their skin grow grotesquely, and then Miss Marvel like slaps some of these Orcus goons away, and then like rescues the mother and child, and the mother's like, "Did you touching us with the same hand that just touched that freak?" And it's like, oof. Wolverine and Sync show up to help out. Wolverine addresses the awkwardness with Talon's passing. She can hear Sync's heart skip a beat as he is so close to her. And that's just too weird if these two started dating, right? It'd be like dating the other sister after a breakup. Also, I do not think Sync should be dating Wolverine. Emma's still directing the Earth assault, which reveals Xavier has joined Orcus, and no one's surprised by it. We finally catch up to Shadow Kate, and she's rescuing Caliban, which is just fun that these two are. Because it's been a while since, like, ever since Apocalypse turned him into his Horseman of Death or War, one of those. Like, I don't think Kitty has even talked to him that much. And then he calls her Kitty, which is fun because only Yoyana and Caliban have had the right to call her Kitty, and not get corrected about it. And she wants his assistance to kill Xavier, which she probably should have kept a goal to herself, as he does not want any aspect of that. We cut back to Firestar, Miss Marvel, Wolverine, Sync go to fight Mordok. He's fireproof, but not microwave proof, so they just beat him up real good. Miss Marvel keeps it fun, which Wolverine and Sync appreciate. And I like how Firestar states MODOK has gone soft fighting against the Xavier, against the Avengers, and he's only going to fight the X-Men once, which would be like twice now. We get this beautiful rain scene of Kate being super disappointed in Caliban, won't assist her in killing Xavier. And there's this amazing panel, like she shouts at um, Caliban as he walks away, and then she sees that there's a third party watching, and she just has this perfect image of her face of just being like caught in a heated moment and now feeling foolish and embarrassed. Um, it's just Casera is such an amazing artist, and it's a rain scene, so like John Romita Jr. should be very proud of him. Logan's there to comfort Kate. We get set up with extraordinary X-Men, as once Xavier, Orcus, AR are dealt with, Kate is just done with the X-Men. And Logan being a best friend is just like, yeah, that makes sense. And she's been through it, so I get her having a break. But also I'm curious about the writing process, about did Duggan write this and then they're using it for exceptional, or was it so far in late in the plan that they're like, hey, we're doing From the Ashes, it'd be nice if you set this up, which I imagine is how it must have gone. Um, which exception extraordinary. Oh yeah, I wrote extraordinary here on Twitter, but it's exceptional X-Men is the title I'm most looking forward to, and it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes up. And then Logan promises that he's going to kill Xavier, which we know he won't do. He'd be some moment where he's about to do it, and Xavier's like, "No, Logan, I have a plan," and Logan's like, "Oh, all right." Or something dramatic's gonna happen because that's what Logan he can't seal the deal. So it's such a great issue. I love the Shadow Kate stuff. I wonder if Emma will have the same thought of this whole endeavor just being too much and that teams them up. I really love Logan just telling Kate do whatever she has to do. I am disappointed there's no Lockheed in this after we got him 2 issues ago, but we weren't promised him either. So stellar issue. Then Invincible Iron Man 18 came out where Magneto saves Tony from Freelon. Freelon starts talking to Magneto, and Magneto's like, I don't know who you are, which was my favorite part. War Machine finally escapes from prison with Sandman and another fellow, and so they're taking out Sentinel factories. So, and I want to say that was the bulk of it. I don't think there was anything else um, that memorable. And I wasn't very sure if Iron Man issues take place before Avengers or after the Avengers, but I believe it reads better if it's before the Avengers. Then Power Pack Into the Storm concluded with its fifth issue. It's a lot of horse people politics, which I forget what their name is, like the Kamalian or something. But they make it back home. There was one of the horse ladies confronts Storm about how she let the children just go off to fight while she fought the Brood, and they're like they're capable children. They're gonna handle this. But it's like don't tell Storm what to do. And then they all take Storm back home, and we do not. This is like the first Power Pack miniseries in a while that does not include Kitty or Logan, outside of being referenced. Cable 4 um, concluded uh, young Nathan shot Cable in the head, but where his TK virus is most dense at, so he survived. Although Cable does not want young Nathan to, which hear myself now, I'm like, well, if I just call one Cable, one young Nathan, I think that'd be fine. um, to grow up to be him, so he's supportive of it, but he would like communication when a battle is happening. We see the carrier has is transitioning to a woman, so fully support her and trans rights. And we get Irene Merriweather gets the load update about what the mission is, and we get tease that they're gonna join Fall of the House of X5. So and I want to say X-Men 34 also hinted at. Stay tuned for Fall of House of X5. So that one's building up to be something important. Weapon X-Men 3 had no reference to Magic dying in the previous issue, so I don't care what's going on there. Oh yeah, Blood Hunt 1 came out. Um, Massive spoilers for Blood Hunt if you're going to read it, but no X-Men characters, but all the vampire folks block out the sun so they can, be vampires 24/7. And it ends with Blade biting Doctor Strange. Like, Strange is some type of chump. So, um, that happened. So let's see what comics are coming out next or this week. Okay, so Blood Hunt is fully underway. There's Avengers 14, which ties into Blood Hunt. Blood Hunters 1. Um, Deadpool 2 comes out. Giant size X-Men number 1. So here we go. Which is mostly a starring vehicle for Warren. So I don't care about that. Oh, Doctor Strange Academy Blood Hunt comes out. So we see if Magic shows up in that. And Wolverine 49 is getting closer to its final issue. And we get X-Men Forever 3 that promises to be the Adler Darkholm family reunion. So I am mostly excited about X-Men Forever 3. Yeah. And then Giant Size X-Men and then Wolverine 49. And potentially Strange Academy, and that's it. And so we went to Free Comic Book Day, and we went to Great Falls, as it's the closest comic book store. And I don't know, when I think of Montana comic book stores, I always think Kelly's Comics first. But we're going to see Pink in August in Missoula. So we are going to stop by the Missoula comic book store and to see. And I think they're relatively the same distance away, but for a reason, Great Falls is just it just feels closer. And Kelly's Comics, like we walked in, it was the most busiest I've seen that store like forever. And so, and we got there like in 10 minutes after it opened, and it was just packed. And it was great. They did the same thing they did last year where they just had a bag full of all the books except for the adult ones. So I had to make sure I grabbed those three. Um, and one of those free comic books is the Blood Hunt free sample, I guess. And then it also had the Uncanny X-Men in the back of it. Written by Gail Simone and David Marquez on the as the artist. And Gail treated us to a stealth Lockheed reference. So I was super excited about that as Jubilee says that they had a dragon, actually two dragons. And all Jubilee fans should know about Shogo, that her adopted son who turns into a dragon now. But the two dragons, I mean, that's a clear reference to Lockheed. So I had to tweet at her saying, "Hey, thank you so much for including a Lockheed reference." She's like, "Well, it was actually a reference to Two Dragons," which I was like, "Well, yes." But it's just so great that Gail Simone took her time to respond and like quote tweet me back. So I was like, "Oh, Gail Simone, thank you so much." And it did because of the three titles, I mean, I love that roster, but like Kate's on Exceptional, Magic's on X-Men, and then Uncanny has Rogue and Nightcrawler and Gambit and Wolverine Jubilee. And, stellar cast, but, it doesn't have the Shadow, the Flame, or the Magic in it. So, um, but, love any Stealth Lucky reference I can get. So that got added to the collection. I went there hoping to buy four comics, Storm 2023 1, 3, and 4. And I looked everywhere, and like to the point where my lovely wife was like, "This is taking too long." And I was like, "I know they're here somewhere because I mean, sorry, but I know no one bought them." And then finally, they were tucked in the top row behind, I don't know, the like the O's or the P's of the alphabet. And I was like, "It's got to be here," and there they were. So I'm missing issue 4, so that stays on the wish list. And then Howard the Duck, issue 1, volume 7 of it. It was just a one shot, but still it counts as a volume. And Lockheed was in that, so got 3 issues on the Lockheed list, which I want to say takes me to maybe 19 appearances I'm missing. I'll find out Monday when I update the list. Um, but yeah, like we walked in, they told us to make a big U around. And then what I thought they should have done was have us go out the door, but in hindsight, I'm like, oh no, if they went out the door, then people wouldn't come back into shop. But, you know, and then I was looking for those back issues, and so it was nice. Like everything worked out. And then I got 3 variant covers because I might as well, because we don't go to Gray Falls too often. And, but whenever we do, we always make a point to stop by Kelly's Comics. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to stumble across variant covers, I might as well get these variant covers. So that was pretty cool. And you can find all the comics and visuals at my YouTube channel, Jacko SII. Oh yeah, and then I found this Pop Funko because there was a Beast and Gambit cover ones, which I didn't know those ones were made. But when I pulled out Gambit, I saw the Days of Future Past Wolverine and got super excited that maybe there was a dual buddy collection. Because I've been noticing they do that with like some like recreating scenes or whatever. But when I pulled it out, it was just the one guy. But he was $5 cheaper than the Beast and Gambit one. So I was like, well, fine. So I spent 25 more dollars than I wanted in my budget. But got it. You can see Kate Pride behind it on the cover recreation. Or not even cover recreation. It's literally just the cover. Um, but there was a part of me I was hoping like Logan was on one side, you flip it and you see Kate on the other side, but you know, something to hope for the Pop Funko collection or Funko Pops. I don't know. I believe it is Funko Pop, but I'm so used to saying Pop Funkos, I gotta do it. Which, speaking of which, in September they're gonna make a Funko Fusion game that is gonna be on the PS4, and Universal's the main contributor to the series, so all these Universal franchises are going to be involved in, including Back to the Future and Jurassic World. But Knight Rider is in there too. So I've already promised Walker D, like, hey, we're going to, if that's DLC, then we're buying that DLC. But everyone's just saying, it's Lego Dimensions without the toy to life gimmick, which, funny enough, or coincidentally enough, the company making this is actually former Lego people who left T2 and then right formed their own company. So, pedigree's there to be good. I know if you pre-order it, you get some Walking Dead got figures, but I don't know. I like the comic, but we never got too involved in the show. So, um, I don't know. So we're excited about that. It's probably gonna be my one new game of the year. So, Uh, excited about buying that in September, so expect some videos about that. Or I might wait until it's on sale at any price. Oh, I should say, if it's a $60 game, which it should be, I'm probably going to not buy it immediately. But if it goes anywhere under 50, like it's wait until a deal. I think we can do that. Um, speaking of Walker D, um, thank you so much for creating the instrumental bumpers. We appreciate it. And if you would like to go to Walker D World, he made a Star Wars video for May the 4th be with you, which was fun. Kelly's Comics had Star Wars sales. GameStop had Star Wars sales. And I want to say the Toys. Oh, no, no. What's it called? It's games, calendars, and a third thing. That store had Star Wars sales too. So I was like, hey, look at these people tying in. Oh, and Hot Topic had two X-Men shirts, but one was X-Men 97, which I did not like. It's just like all the X-Men's faces across. And then the other one was the X-Men 1 cover, but the variant one that just has, oh, no, no, it's not X-Men 1, but it's definitely a Jim Lee cover. But I was like, well, I'll buy this. And it was like buy one thing, get another thing 30% off, but we couldn't find a third or a second thing. So left empty handed. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you will ask a friend to subscribe and listen, we appreciate it as we try to get the podcast to grow. You can follow me on Twitter at JackoSII, YouTube at the same name, the podcast at SNFWM on Instagram and Twitter. And I'll talk to you next time. All right, everyone. Thank you. Bye.